Hi, you've reached Stephanie Marie Morales. Sorry I missed your call. Go ahead and leave your name and number, or feel free to text me, and I'll get right back to you. Thanks so much. Bye.
Hey, Stephanie, this is Gordon Rose. I'm editor-in-chief with Clip Artist Films, gordonrose.tv. I'm doing a story that's been ongoing for several years, looking for comment from Senator Quezada. Unfortunately, earlier today, he blocked me on his Instagram. There's really nothing in the Ninth Circuit at this point, but there was a vacated case called Knight Institute v. Trump. And the reason I'm contacting you, and by the way, so it's still kind of a gray area, but ACLU says it's a First Amendment violation, among other organizations and other very relevant attorneys in the space. Anyhow, the purpose of this call and this message is I'm looking for comment from Senator Quezada about this story I'm doing about 2017's SB 1422, which was legislation that he passed. It was promoted by a guy named Edward Maldonado, the former president of Los Abogados, who at the time was already years deep into being an active rapist and had not been caught yet. I've been seeking comment on this issue from the senator for a while now, for a couple of years. Last year on Twitter, he did a blanket denial of being aware of anything. And there's nothing being accused of him helping Ed cover up for what he did, but we're just trying to get some insight and comment. It's a little off-putting when a sitting senator is blocking a member of the press looking for comment on a news story. So anyways, I'm contacting you because on LinkedIn it shows you're his campaign manager. Looks like you're also the media contact for his most recent run for treasurer. And so I'm seeking comment. If you could, please email news@clipartistfilms.com, CLIPARTIST, If you're not his current press secretary in his official capacity as senator, would you mind referring me to the person that is? I am seeking comment for a news story. There's a documentary film coming out on Christmas here in just a few weeks called Grand Canyon State of Conspiracy. He will be featured in the film, which is why we're seeking comment and have been for several years. Now, here's the thing, you guys. 2017's SB 1422 was legislation that Edward the rapist Maldonado claimed he helped pen with Martin Quezada. At the time, Ed was president of Los Abogados. That's the Hispanic Bar Association, their chapter in Arizona. Now, why does this all matter besides being part of the Grand Canyon State of Conspiracy movie and story and all these facts I'm trying to get out? I'll tell you why it matters and why that blanket denial to me is a disingenuous comment that he made a year ago on Twitter. It's disingenuous because Martin insinuated he didn't really know Ed. That just because he was involved in some legislative effort, does that mean he knows his personal life? But if you go back and you look at how Ed came up through Los Abogados and how Ed participated in bar functions and bar courses, state bar courses, you can go back to 2012 and you can find online proof. While Ed was a communications director, he was promoting roundtables with people like Paul Penzone. Martin Quezada was at the same events he was at. This isn't like where there's 10,000 people at these events. There's just a handful of people in these small rooms. There's also proof that Ed and Martin went through the same workshop at the bar. So Martin and Ed do know each other very intimately. It's prima facie, self-evident. So the comment I've been seeking from Senator Quezada is really simple. What do you think? And I'm going to ask you publicly right now, Martin. I've been looking for this comment for years now. You don't have to go hide. Exposing corruption in both parties is more important to me than just a political stance or political view. I think I've proven that with my body of work. What is your opinion on the fact that you collaborated with a rapist who is taking law students back to the prosecutor's office, who was accused in other matters that he was drugging girls in the back of cabs to rape them, while you guys, according to Ed, are penning legislation to vacate convictions for sex trafficking victims that got busted. So for the public, so everybody knows what this SB 1422 was, it was to give discretion back to the prosecutor to pull back charges if, say, somebody was busted in a prostitution ring and they were actually the trafficked victim. I'm looking for your insight and comment, Martin, on somebody that you did intimate state bar business with, that you worked together closely through Los Abogados to actually write this legislation. Both you and Ed lobbied Doug Ducey to sign this legislation. What's your opinion and comment on the fact that the dude that helped you promote it and get it passed was for years already raping women right under your nose professionally? Do you have a comment on that other than blanket denials? Because that doesn't float. That doesn't float. You have a responsibility to the public. So I'm just looking for a comment, for an opinion. Does that give you a right as a journalist to block me on social media because you don't like my political views or the questions I'm asking? You don't have a right to do that. That is the public square. The Knight Institute v. Trump case was vacated only because Joe Biden got in office. The Ninth Circuit hasn't really weighed in. There's other circuits that have. And this will go up to the Supreme Court eventually, I believe, and get tabled. But in the time being, why don't you at least follow the ACLU, who you worship, and follow their guidelines? Excuse me. They say it's a First Amendment violation. So please, immediately unblock me on the Instagram, because as the next few weeks progresses, not only am I seeking comment and your insight on that particular issue with Ed Maldonado, I'm also going to want your opinion on some other things that are going to be published. So I'd like an open line of communication. I have a right to gather this information for the public and for my news story. You don't have a right to block me as a member of the press and violate my First Amendment rights like you are. You don't have a right to do that. So I'm going to hold you accountable. I also talked to the Ombudsman's office, and they don't have it within their scope to take a complaint on this issue, which begs another question. Should politicians in Arizona be allowed to block members of the press or their constituents that they don't like because they're asking tough questions? And if a complaint like that arises, shouldn't there maybe be a change in the law so there's not an exclusion for politicians? Maybe some sort of lobbyist out there wants to whip that language together and see about getting somebody to sponsor that change so we can have that change in the Ombudsman's office, which is there to aid the citizens in matters just like these. It's really unconstitutional, in my view, and un-American to create firewalls for politicians to be protected from criticism. Anyhow, that's all I got for now, everybody. Stay tuned for more. Coming up soon, Grand Canyon State of Conspiracy is premiering on Christmas Eve on GordonRose.tv. Senator Quezada, I'm looking for your comment. A real comment, please. A real comment. What's your opinion on the fact that you collaborated with a rapist who hadn't been caught yet that helped you pen sex trafficking reform legislation while being an active rapist who hadn't been caught yet? And by the way, before I exit this news update, let's just be candid, everybody. I'm going to address everybody. Doug Ducey, Paul Penzone, Martin Quezada, all you characters. Mark Bernovich. Is it okay to run cover for somebody in politics that's really hurting the public like that, just to make sure you don't get in trouble in the public's perception? Have you guys ever really thought about how many people Ed raped? How many women did Ed rape? How many women did Ed rape in the 18 months between when I was arrested and when he finally got arrested and indicted for the rape in 2014? Why is it taking years for this trial to process? It's still ongoing. It's still being slow walked. Did it ever register with any of you guys that maybe the reason why some of the women finally stepped forward is because I was discovering that Ed was doing crimes? And maybe some people saw me get arrested and framed and they go, oh, okay, maybe we should step forward. If there's more victims in that time frame, Doug Ducey, Paul Penzone, Mark Bernovich, y'all are personally responsible for that pain of those women.